Hello, boys and girls. Today's teaching point is I can use strategies to read smoothly. Well, why is it so important that you read smoothly anyway? Well, the reason why it's so important is because if you don't read smoothly and you don't use expression in your voice, then no one will understand what you're reading. And if you sound like a robot and your words are choppy, then maybe even you will have trouble understanding what you just read, and you won't be able to answer any questions about your story, and maybe even you'll miss the whole point, like if your story has a moral. So, what are some strategies that you can use to help you read more smoothly? Well, the first thing you can do is try to use a storyteller's voice. You can also change your voice to match the character. And last, you need to notice the punctuation and match your voice to that punctuation. For example, when you see a period, you'll know that you do not need to change your voice at the end of that sentence. But when you see a question mark, you need to change your voice to make it sound like you're asking a real question. And of course, when you see an exclamation point, you need to change your voice to make it sound exciting. And just like we learned about last week, when you see quotation marks, that means a character is talking. And you should change your voice to try to make it sound like the character. So, for example, if your character is a dad, like maybe you're reading the story Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you can make your voice sound a little more deep when it's dad doing the talking. And you can maybe say, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." So for today's read aloud, I want you to notice how I use strategies to help me read this story more smoothly. Pay attention to that. This story is called Frog and Toad Are Friends. It's by Arnold Lobel, and we're going to be reading chapter 1 called Spring. Make sure you're listening to my voice and see if I'm using those strategies. Frog ran up the path to Toad's house. He knocked on the front door. There was no answer. "Toad! Toad!" shouted Frog. "Wake up! It is spring!" "Blah!" said a voice from inside the house. "Toad! Toad!" cried Frog. "The sun is shining! The snow is melting! Wake up!" "I am not here," said the voice. Frog walked into the house. It was dark. All the shutters were closed. "Toad, where are you?" called Frog. "Go away," said the voice from a corner of the room. Toad was lying in bed. He had pulled all the covers over his head. Frog pushed Toad out of bed. He pushed him out of the house and onto the front porch. Toad blinked in the bright sun. "Help!" said Toad. "I cannot see anything." "Don't be silly," said Frog. "What you see is the clear, warm light of April, and it means that we can begin a whole new year together, Toad. Think of it," said Frog. "We will skip through the meadows and run through the woods and swim in the river. In the evenings, we will sit right here on this front porch and count the stars." "You can count them, Frog," said Toad. "I will be too tired. I am going to bed." Toad went back in the house. He got into the bed and pulled the covers over his head again. "But Toad!" cried Frog. "You will miss all the fun!" "Listen, Frog," said Toad. "How long have I been asleep?" "You have been asleep since November," said Frog. "Well then," said Toad, "a little more sleep will not hurt me. Come back again and wake me up at about 1/2 May. Good night, Frog." "But Toad," said Frog, "I will be lonely until then." Toad did not answer. He had fallen asleep. Frog looked at Toad's calendar. The November page was still on top. Frog tore off the November page. He tore off the December page, and the January page, and the February page, and the March page. He came to the April page. Frog tore off the April page too. Then Frog ran back to Toad's bed. "Toad! Toad, wake up! It's May now!" "What?" said Toad. "Can it be May so soon?" "Yes," said Frog. "Look at your calendar." Toad looked at the calendar. The May page was on top. Why, it is May, said Toad as he climbed out of bed. Then he and Frog ran outside to see how the world was looking in the spring. The end. I hope you liked this story, boys and girls, and I hope that you were able to notice how I was able to use strategies to help me read this story more smoothly.